What's up everybody, East Tactics here, and you've come to this video, thank you for dropping in, to learn about everything that there is to know about the differentials from Arrma. Now whether you're running the newest and latest vehicles or you're still running a V3 KRATON, it doesn't matter. Today you're going to learn in this video everything that you need to know about the best differentials that they currently offer. Now, as many know, right now it's November, we're coming into the holidays for Christmas, so you might be popping into this video because you recently got the newest 6S Extreme KRATON, or you recently got a new rig from Arrma, whether it be the Arrma Italian, the Outcast, the EXB, the Fire Team, or the newest, the Big Rock, the 6S Big Rock. It doesn't really matter. The differentials that Arrma offers all fit in all of their rigs, and they don't all come with the very best ones. So about a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half, Arrma came out with their EXB variants for their rigs. And these differentials had slip plates inside of them. I'll go into the details about the slip plates and whatnot. But ultimately, Arrma, in their latest rigs, the Arrma Extreme KRATON or the Arrma 6S Big Rock, they still use the EXB differentials. The only difference is they've removed the slip plates from the rear and front differentials. They came out with a kit. The center differential still uses the exact same center differential that you got with your EXB, okay? So this video is gonna do a couple of things for different people. If you're brand new to the hobby, it's gonna be your first deep dive into understanding your new differentials that came with your KRATON EXB Extreme or your 6S Big Rock. Taking them apart, reinstalling them, I'm gonna show you all of that in this video. However, if you're somebody that's got a V3 or a V4 or even a V5, and you're looking to upgrade to have the best setup when it comes to what Arrma offers, the only thing that my rig, my V4, hasn't really done yet is switch over my differentials to the new EXB variants. And so that's what I'm doing today. So strap in, here we go. What's going on everybody? This is the Arrma V4 KRATON 6S. And I don't know if you remember from my last bash session, but I actually was experiencing some clicking in the rear differential. I'm actually going to upgrade to an Arrma KRATON EXB Diff. So I jumped onto Jenny RC's and I picked up an entire diff house. In my V4, the only differential that's going to be of EXB differential is going to be my rear. The gear setup that's on the EXB differentials are not only tankier, the spiral cut is slightly different. So you need to make sure that you swap out to the proper EXB spiral input gear. The rear differential on my V4 has always been the weak point for me when it comes to either stripping the spiral input gear or stripping the actual teeth on the mains gear. To basically explain what I've already done is I simply removed the center brace. Okay, now that's removed, I went in and I removed the 4 screws holding on my rear skid plate, popped out the pins for the shocks, folded those up, and I have these all tucked away with this rubber band. Pop this off and we can work directly with it here. You'll notice this is a beefier hinge kit than what you would normally see from M2C, and that is because I've incorporated a unique rear bumper, which is right here. This is actually the Mojave rear bumper. In my opinion, it's one of the best rear bumpers that you can actually get for your KRATON and many of the other Arrma rigs. So highly recommend watching this video if you haven't checked it out yet. There we go. You're gonna wanna make sure you put these shims back on with the new setup. Now to determine where the actual clicking came from, we could take a close look at the spiral input gear. It looks fine. You see those two are like really bad. The tips are gone off like that one, and that one, and that one. So that's probably where my skipping was happening. All right. And we'll take a close look too at the difference between the V4 versus the EXB. So let's just go ahead and set these aside for now because we want to remove this M2C outdrive cup that's connected to the spiral input gear. Red Loctite was incorporated. Now, if you have a composite bulkhead, throwing a flame at this might, make you a little bit hesitant because you don't want to melt the bulkhead. I don't really have anything to worry about because I've got an aluminum bulkhead. Oh yeah, that's toasty. Super easy with a little bit of heat. Now, while I was cleaning this out, I found a shim that I put on the back side of this right here. Let's go ahead and get the EXB differential out. From the factory, it comes with one shim. All right, so let's take a close look at the differences between the EXB rear diff and the V4. First thing you notice is the V4 has screw-in bolts that go in, they protrude. I replaced all 4 of these with Torx heads because these things were stripping all the time, driving me crazy. With the EXB, it looks like it's used the same size hex head, so hopefully those don't strip out too easily, but they are now flush, which is cool. The cup itself actually looks slightly smaller with the EXB, which is interesting. You can see that the teeth are actually longer by about a good 2 millimeters. You could also see a curvature to the EXB teeth, whereas the V4 variants are more straight. Looking at them from the side, the teeth on the EXB are a little bit more meatier. They don't quite have such a fine tip, which is going to lend to the more robust nature of them. Also, you can see that the metal is different. This metal is actually a higher quality metal than the V4. You can see the mill lines in the EXB, which is another evidence that this is a higher quality metal. And you can also tell they're just slightly taller. All right, let's get these both taken apart and dropped into their jars. Now, I believe when I picked this up, I bought the open differential, which, I mean, my first clue is that it's not, because I can see the slip plate on top. Let's get it open. The first thing we have is the gasket, which we want to be very careful not to damage. And I don't think I'm going to put the gasket into the solution. Okay, we have 2 separate slip gears. Now, if you look really closely at these things, you can tell one side has a flat face and the other side has a round. The rounded edge goes down, goes face down on the sun gear. Okay, now let's drop both of these in to the solution. This is one of the main featurettes that's better. That pin is way beefier in the EXB. And that's pretty much everything. Pull this out. And then we've got our grommet. Now the grommet I'm not going to put in here because you don't want to do anything to that to deteriorate it or change its rubber quality, so we'll just dry that off. Let's go ahead and remove this thing. Look at that. See how that looks? Pretty cool. We'll keep those into the new setup. They don't need to be put in there either. All right, continuing on. The rounded edge goes up against the spider gear. We already know about this, so we can go ahead and separate everything out. All right, let's see if we can't get this one out now. Sometimes getting a pair of like needle nose like these is easier. There we go, that in. And then just like the last one, oh, wait a second. This time it's in between them. So went like in this order and this facing. Let's go ahead and get the pin out. So in order to get that out, we have to actually pop off the grub screw there. Set that aside. We can line that up and get that pin out. When pulling this out, I didn't notice any washers or anything like that on either side. So now as far as on the inside goes, we have a big washer, a little washer, and our O-ring. I just want to point out, so as far as the sun gear goes, that is way meatier. Like the teeth are larger, it's just tankier in all aspects. Okay, so now also let it be noted that this is not an open diff. With the slip plates, it's got the slip plates. Without the slip plates, it's an open differential. You can actually incorporate some spacers instead of these plates so that you have an open diff. Now let's take apart the V4 and put it in this jar. Try to hurry. Pretty goopy. All right, I am back and I finished cleaning up the V4 differential. As you guys know, I put that away because I'm no longer going to be using a V4 differential in my rear end. Now, if you want to watch, again, the video on me pitting against each other, these two products, the QD electric cleaner and the Cow RC stuff, you definitely got to watch the video. It's amazing. The Cow RC products have blown my mind. So jump over, watch that video. But I wanted to get into a little bit of details about the value of, I guess, doing what I'm doing here, which is basically switching the rear end over to the EXB differential. I've had the most problems with the rear end. Now, over time, if I do strip something in the center, I'll switch it to an EXB differential. Same with the front. I love what I see when it comes to the EXB. That's what I'm showcasing today. Now, before I jump into the installation and the reassembly of the EXB differential, I wanted to talk about the new gears. Are beefier, they're tankier, they're made of a better metal. Arrma also incorporated this limited slip technology. I'd like to talk about the limited slip technology. Now, you're going to find limited slip disc technology in your cars, larger trucks, larger cars, real world situations, because there's an extremely interesting thing that happens both at large scale and at small scale that needs to be accommodated for when you're ripping around on a track and you find yourself in a situation where this tire is on really solid road pavement where it has a ton of grip. This side is on a slippery surface like sand or, I don't know, water, oil, something like that. And when you gun it, because this side has all the traction, this side's going to end up spinning way faster and getting way more power, and you're not going to get as even of power to grind out a fast rip or whatever. So what happens with a limited slip differential is it allows there to be power still sent to this side and not all of it driven to one side or the other. It basically gives this side back more power to give more even traction to the rig, okay? So with that mentality, you would think to yourself, well, a limited slip differential is going to be better for all circumstances, right? Well, it sort of is a hit or miss desired thing when it comes to RC cars. In the real world, large scale vehicles, yeah, it's actually really important, especially in like large scale off-roading or, even in just like vehicles trying to maintain the right type of traction and friction for driving on a road or an icy road or whatever. You might see in videos or something of somebody in a car where one of the tires is completely stuck in something and the other tire is just spinning and now they're stuck, they can't move. Well, if the tire that was stuck was actually getting more power sent to it based on a limited slip differential, it would be more likely to get out of its situation. Inside of the cup of a large scale vehicle, the technology is actually different than the way Arrma is incorporating their limited slip action, okay? And to explain that, basically, let's just assume this is the inside of a differential for a 4x4 truck, a large scale 4x4 truck. Well, they have a spring that sits in between the spider gears that actually pushes outward. It's giving consistent pressure. And then they have the slip plates inside on both sides with the planetary gears, and the pressure of that spring is actually pushing and creating a pressure. It squeezes the discs together and those discs lock in, and then it provides power to that side that's spinning too fast. So it uses a pressure system for the technology. Well, Arrma, they didn't put any sort of little spring in here to provide the same type of technology. Instead, what they're doing is incorporating all these little holes into the actual disc, the slip discs, that create more drag. So it actually uses the differential fluid as part of its technology to run, right? And the downside or the drawback to this whole concept is when you're using the disc fluid itself as a component for engaging the slip plates for the traction to be sent, whether it needs to be sent more to one side or the other, you're sort of using a component that already exists. So many people in the RC industry have found that whenever they're running limited slip differentials, that it just feels way different. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it, A. And B, there's less consistency with the performance when you're turning and when you're doing different things. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It still does work to some degree. It just doesn't work as well. So while I definitely appreciate Arrma trying to incorporate a level of higher technology into these rigs, a lot of people have transitioned back to just going to an open differential, which is what you see in the V4 and the V5, right? Many people who want to still use the EXB differentials, they have made these differentials open diffs, so that now they just basically up the fluid a little bit more. If you have thicker fluid, you're just gonna end up getting that traction that you find missing. Because of the thickness alone, it's still going to provide enough torque to the one side and get out of the situation or not impact whatever. After really digging into it, reading all the message boards and finding people's opinions about how, you know, they would just assume keep it simple and just focus on tweaking the thickness of their oils, then I'm going to go ahead and incorporate the open diff and keep my V4 open, okay? Basically, I hope that makes sense to you. This is the kit right here that you need, Arrma 311094. There was a lot of hangups in the beginning when Arrma came out with this rear differential slip disc stuff. Arrma finally came out with a shim kit that is the exact thickness. You don't want to just kind of throw together your own shims, which a lot of people were doing, and then they were having problems. So at the end of the day, Arrma has addressed the issues that they were having from the beginning with the EXB. I still will probably open up all of these and maybe mess around with the oils that I have in there. Maybe at the end of the day, I might even just make all 3 differentials in this open because I'm just not digging the way it's cornering or the way it fills. So anyway, now with all that said, let's go ahead and get into the weeds and show exactly how to put this thing back together. Now I'm just gonna throw this thing back together in the dry fashion so that you can see exactly how to reassemble this if you're incorporating the slip plates, okay? There's 2 ways to load the slip plates. This fashion right here is incorporating less slip than if you were to put this down first, the star gear, then the circular gear, and then another star gear like this. Okay? Remember, the rounded edge is going to be facing toward the sun gear. So let's go ahead and set this thing up with the slip plates. So the first thing you do is you grab one of the outdrive cups and the bearing, pop the bearing on, push this up through. Again, I'm doing this dry. We're going to take a O-ring, gently push the O-ring down into its position. Now again, this is a dry run. So normally I would put some of Cow RC's Udder Butter. So just set this here for now. Then the larger of the 2 shims, then the smaller. Then we've got to slide in our pin. Drop this in. Before we do the sun gear, we're going to go with the maximum slip, which means I'll put this in first. The rounded edge is up. There you go. And we're going to go with this rounded edge up. And we're going to go rounded edge up again. There we go. Okay, now our sun gear drops in. Next, we want to assemble the spider gears with the shafts. The rounded edge touches the face of these spider gears. I need to rotate it. The bar, the notch is at the top, facing upward. Now we're going to assemble this one, rounded edge in. Bam. Everything should rotate. Okay. Now again, we're doing maximum slip, sun gear. Then rounded edge down on the first one, rounded edge down on this, rounded edge down here. All right, so check it out. Now that this is assembled all the way dry, you'll notice that it sits perfectly flush with the top. The reason why I wanted to also do this dry is to show you and demonstrate how the slip plates are basically interacting with the differential fluid. If you look closely, you can see the holes. When you have a large star plate and then the small circular plate and then the large star plate, when you have that sort of interaction between all three of those holes, you get the most resistance from the oil. Whereas if we were to take these out and do the limited slip variant, putting this down first, then both of these, like this interaction of the holes, these two plates on top end up staying static the exact same. So you're really only getting interaction between two holes instead of three holes as they cross pattern with each other. Less impactive than it would if you did every other. Again, the experience people are having with slip plates is sort of a hit or miss. And you can even tell right now that because Arrma is actually switching both the rear and the front differential to have open diffs, doing away with these slip plates, that they're sort of taking a step backward and not presupposing that the slip plates are the solution for front, center, and rear. Now they're just going to have the slip plates only in the center and open diffs on the rear and the front. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take it apart and we're going to put it back together with our shim kit. So now I'm going to use the udder butter. In the past, I would use green slime. I gotta say, if it's anywhere near as crazy good as all of the other Cow RC products, this stuff's just gonna blow my mind. I'm gonna take this and half of this. Just trying to distribute the goo on this ring. Large one, then the small one. You'll notice the inside of this kit, really, when you buy the kit, you're buying a lot of extras. The only shim that you really need are these big, thick silver ones. You just need 2 of these fat ones. Now, if you look, 3 of these equals 1 of these, thickness-wise. All right, let's get in our pin. Next, drop this in first. It drops all the way down to the bottom. Then we're dropping in our sun gear. Flush. At this point, we want to put in our differential fluid, okay? Now for me, I'm gonna run 20K in the rear. Stock from the manufacturer, it comes with 10K. This is a little bit more thick than the stock variant. Let that sit and settle for a second. I'm gonna spin it just a bit. Make sure that kind of seeps down all as low as it can go. Now we already know we put these together properly from the last one. I did want to point out, I actually have a little accessory that was given to me. I forgot, I had these. Check this out, he's SK Hobbies. He's from Arizona. He's got his own YouTube channel, and these are little 3D printed holders. And it's legit. So big shout out to SK Hobbies. Look in the description for his YouTube channel. Check him out. If you guys are looking for something like this to pick up from him, just tell him East Tactics sent you. I'm just gonna make sure that this is pressed down all the way. Then we're gonna put some more fluid in. Now we don't want to fill it all the way to the rim because we still got to push in a giant sun gear. Let that sink all the way down. We'll spin it, push it down. And we'll take the second one of these, set that in. That is how you put back together an open differential. Now, you'll notice that there's still a little bit of room for some fluid. So let's set this aside and let's put together, we're gonna take our O-ring and then some of our udder butter that we still have left over from cow RC. Push that in. Oh, you know what? I have another one of these. So when you pick these up from SK Hobbies, pick up 2 of them. Okay. So we're just gonna stick this in there and rotate so that this stuff gets down in there. Large one first. Small one next. We're gonna take our pin. Oh, almost forgot. Look what I have leaking out. Fortunately, I haven't lost a lot of it. Let's get that back in there. You do want to make sure that you can't see it, a lip there. You don't want to see that lip. Now that lip's gone. Let's top this off. This face right here, we want to keep as dry as possible. If you notice any of the differential fluid getting up on this ridge, you want to try to dry it. Just pushing it down and making sure that I'm happy with the amount of fluid that I see in these sections here on the edges. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to take the gasket, set this in here. We'll line up the holes. I'm going to rotate this so that the cross section of the X matches the holes. Then I'm going to rotate this so that the cross section matches the holes. Notice how I use the tip of my needle nose to kind of line up that hole and make sure it's pressed all the way down. Now I'm going to check to see if there's any leakage. And I'll just spin it at 360. All right, let's screw these down. Okay, now if you use a drill, you are going to be drilling into plastic, so you must be very careful and not go all the way down, or else you will strip out the hole. Also, you don't want to go too fast with a drill, because you will heat the plastic down there, which will lend to stripping as well. And then go cross pattern over to the other one. And you'll know when it starts to get tight, and you don't need to crank it a whole lot of times after that, because you don't want to, again, strip the plastic down below. Twist it. You shouldn't feel any binding or snagging of any kind. There shouldn't be any slop, very little. So now I officially have an EXB open differential in the rear. All right, well, let's get this thing reinstalled. Okay, everybody, let's get this thing put back together. I want to do this rather quickly, and I'm probably going to fast forward through a lot of it because you already see me pull it apart. So a lot of those things are just going to be the same except for in reverse, but there are a few things, a few key details that I do want to bring up. Maybe we'll just get this out of the way right now. So just so you guys know, I do have a hot racing aluminum bulkhead. There are different companies out there that make an aluminum bulkhead. Hot Racing provides them. It's a black anodized aluminum bulkhead. You can also pick them up from Bitavon, and now Arrma actually offers their own aluminum bulkheads. As you are aware, they're going to be coming out with the Arrma KRATON EXB Extreme. I do want to point out that I have a shim here that is on the backside of this EXB spiral input gear. Okay. This shim did not come stock, but I do like to put it on. It pushes the mesh just a hair closer when it comes to putting this together. I'm going to be using the udder butter to go around the outside of this, filling up the chamber of the bulkhead with the udder butter. Now this is an awesome product from RC. It's more akin to like a marine grease that is going to be water resistant. Before I was using this stuff right here, which is a full synthetic grease. This stuff works fine as well, but it's not as water resistant as this new product that I've gotten from RC. So I'm really excited about that. Another thing that you're gonna see me using here, I do have their red Loctite and their blue Loctite, high quality. The dispensing system on it is top notch. The way it seals up is top notch. And also there's just a ton of it. So once you buy this, it'll last literally forever. Also am using these little part trays from cowrc.com. So big shout out to RC. They offer a really amazing setup for workbenches. You can get their different modular kits, like this is a 4 square. This right here is a 6, no, that's an 8 square. And then you can even pick up a full mat from them. You can see right here, cowrc.com. This thing is just high quality rubber. It's got its own compartments for, you know, your miscellaneous screws and whatnot. So amazing products. This piece right here, M2C 3186. This is a higher quality metal than you're gonna find from Arrma. So I'm be using this one on the outdrive cup for the central drive shaft. And then if you're gonna be switching over to an EXB differential, you do want to make sure that you pick up ARA 310979. Keep that in mind. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is I am going to be running M2C's drive shafts. These things are absolutely amazing. I mean, if you want to look at the difference between the drive shafts, you can see the metal quality from M2C is a lot higher. And you can see the thickness of these drive shafts compared to the stock drive shafts. There's just no comparison. All right, so let's just get this thing back together. My previous setup, I ran 2 of these shims. You know, it's not necessarily gonna be a one-size-fits-all situation. When it comes to these shims that go on the left side of the differential, I have a stack of shims. Now, you can imagine that these all have different thicknesses. I mean, there's one silver one in there and a black one in there that literally is as thick as 3 of the other ones. So depending on what shim you have is also going to make a difference. So my ultimate point that I'm trying to get at, when you push this thing in there, you're going to want to determine how much slop there is. If there is a wiggle back and forth, then you might put 1 in. If there's a lot of wiggle, you might put 2 in. Maybe this thing just fits in there super tight and there's no slop at all. We'll find out. So here we go. Spiral input gear. Put red Loctite on it. Grub screw, you can tell it's in the right spot. All right, I know that it's squeezed together as tight as it can go. All right, now we're gonna be using the RC. I really love the dispensing system on this RC product, how he put it inside of a, I don't know, syringe, I guess is what you call it. See that? I am going to shoot for 1. So what I'll do is I'll just dab a little bit of my bearing that it will stick. And notice I was able to get it in with 1 shim. I'm not sensing any back and forth. Now I still use a plastic bulkhead cover, basically because I just didn't feel like spending the money on a metal version. Right there, there's a little lip right there that catches sometimes. So there's 4 button head screws. Short screws go on the top, long screws go on the bottom. Should be good. All right, we can take this. All right, got those pieces on, everything tightened down. The question is, do you want this to be able to slide back and forth? So I just checked my rig from stock. You can move the bar back and forth slightly. So this can move, barely. One thing that I think is interesting and worth pointing out, like I'm trying to move this back and forth and I'm not getting any play. So these little grommets are put in there because what they do is they prevent shock, a shock impact to go in sideways on the differential gears and break your pin or break your planetary gear or just jack up your internals on your differential. And that is on both sides, none at all. Arrma does ship their new rigs with it. So, all right, well, the rear end is put back together. Now we just gotta attach it to the rig. Okay, so a couple of things when putting this thing back on. Make sure you put your dog bone in first, just kind of set that down. Lock it into place right here. Make sure that you got your gasket, if you're gonna use the gasket, is on. You can pick these gaskets up from eBay through Basher Queen. This bit is a pack of 20. It's just nice having these gaskets because it helps prevent any sort of water or different things like that getting up into your differential. Center brace down first. That right there locks up into place. Now, when it comes to this bumper skid plate, there's a video right here. You can watch all the details on this install. This is a really awesome setup. I'm not going to go into all the details as to why, so watch the video if you want to. We're going to put these two in right here just first, right away, with a shorter screw. These two right here, which are longer, are going to go in here because of the thickness of the skid plate. And then this one right here, which is just about 2 millimeters shorter, we have two of these. They're going to go in first. Now we've got these three. All right, and then these two screws right here tap into the Mojave wing mount support piece. Not easy to get to these two screws here, so I'm just going to use an Allen wrench the old classic way. Not ideal, but whatever. All right, and then last but not least, the old wing mount. Okay, well there you have it. Rear reinstalled, set up with a new EXB differential, and that completes this operation. All right, well that wraps up this video. I know this was a long video, so hopefully you jumped down to the description and you were able to skip around to just the sections that you were interested in. This covered everything that you need to know about the latest differentials from Arrma, including the differentials that are going to be in the new KRATON EXB and the 6S Big Rock. So hopefully it was insightful for you and it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I really do appreciate it. Make sure that if you've not subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned, because starting next year, 2024, April, May, June, July, and August, I will be running a series of jump challenges where you can take your rig, and if you complete the challenge, win some awesome prizes from the different sponsors that I've got pulled together. It's a real good time. You can jump over to my channel during the jump challenges and watch any of the entrance videos in the playlist. Every month we pick a winner. So stay tuned for that, guys. Also, the next video that I'm going to be doing on this bad boy is I'm going to be installing the basher body onto this rig, but doing it in a unique fashion that's going to be game changing. Right here, we've got aluminum body mounts. Not only is that going to be clutch for basher bodies, I'm also going to be implementing some shock mitigation tactics with the basher body going onto these body mounts. So stay tuned for that video, guys. And be sure again to hit a thumbs up on this video, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. East Tactics out.